moving on to the next story of Rune and the Stranger. So, starting off here, we get to see the Stranger. Obviously, in the most recent episode, he's created a big sandstorm and a tornado, and he's blown away his two friends, Nori and Poppy. And so he's walking around and he's trying to find them after that had just happened. So he bumps into, I think, I'm trying to remember, did it say in the subtitles, did it say like a gardener is humming or something? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It listed him as
He's
a gardener.
following a goat first, and then it's like gardener
Following a goat.
humming.
And then it says gardener humming. And then we get to see, here he is, Tom Bombadil in the flesh. And it's his first appearance on the big screen. And he says, his first sentence that he says on the big screen is, "I see you found the goat." And then
that's brilliant. It's so meta. Like, he is
Tom
the
Bombadil
goat.
in the
Tom Bombadil. He's like, "I see you found the goat."
You found me. Yeah. And then the Stranger responds saying, "It wasn't quite what I was searching for." And he says, "Well, there's what you're searching for and there's what you find, isn't there?" And then we also, as soon as he said that, he turns around and he tends to his garden again. And it's the first time we get to hear as well his little "Hey doll, Mary doll, ring a dong dillo." So I liked that his stupid little hummings were just kind of things that he hummed to himself, and I thought that was really, really well done. We'll get into the whole what our opinions of Tom Bombadil on screen was. That's an important part. But for me, just first opinions, I thought that was really nicely done and it was really cool. Then the Stranger asks about the stars over his hill, and he's showing him the map of the stars, and it gets blown away on the wind. But it almost seemed to me that Tom was kind of controlling the wind, and then it lands on this tree, which I thought was Old Man Willow, but it was a kind of a representation of Old Man Willow. We learned later that it was called Old Man Ironwood, that was the name of this tree. And the Stranger, while he's going up to reclaim his map, he sees this beautiful and delicious looking branch, and he's like, "Oh, I'll have me a bit of that branch." He just starts tugging away on this branch, trying to break it off the tree, and he says that it looks like a staff, or it looks like a gand, which is another word that they've been using for a staff, which I'm sure has something behind it. And yeah, as he's trying to pull it off, he gets trapped in the very same way that we see Merry and Pippin getting trapped by Old Man Willow in the Return of the King movies. So yes, Harry, first introduction of Tom Bombadil. What do you think?
So, for like from the start, I feel like my always thoughts Tom Bombadil is like, I don't think he would ever fully be what I'd hoped it to be, because I don't think you can do it in the way Tolkien
Of course
did, because it's just meant to be something that's so different, so otherworldly, that it just didn't feel like it should even be part of this world, and that's why it wasn't part of the Peter Jackson movies.
it was the impossible task, really.
Yeah, the impossible task, and that's why even originally he was meant to be just like a little. You meant to just be hearing him sing in the background, which was meant to be a little cool Easter egg, but that of course didn't happen. But despite that, all I wanted then, after knowing that, and of course, the show can't change much about that now because they've decided to have him in. All I just want is when he's on screen, for it to feel like this person is something else, something that's not part of the other 50 characters we've seen so far. He is like his own thing, like almost not, even though he's of course part of the world, and he said he is part of the world, he's just something else. And I feel like, in my opinion, they did get that. It did feel like he was otherworldly. He was like almost something, a spiritual thing. But and I do think they got that nailed ahead, and that was the biggest thing that I was worried about. So I did feel that, and that's what I was fine with. It's just the accent. I was like I was born in England. Sometimes I still wasn't understanding fully what he's saying. I know they said he wanted to go for a Cornish accent, but I feel like it doesn't fit Tom Bombadil. I'm not sure if you guys agree or disagree, because that's probably something that some people either love, think it does sound correct. For me, I just don't know. I just feel like Tom would be a bit more like not a higher pitched voice, but a bit more softer than he sounded. But Rory Kinnear still did a brilliant job, and I did feel that despite it never being truly what it can be, because it being what it can be, him not being on screen, it was still felt like, we met someone who almost you were not meant to meet. And that's what I feel like that is with Tom Bombadil. He's not meant to be part of the story. And yeah, it did feel like that in some regard. But on the side, I think the rest of the Rune storyline is a bit dragging the episodes on a bit. But and I see that I think that's quite a shared testament so far with the shows that some of the runes, there's a lot of it, by the way, like a very lot.
Yeah.
I even potentially think there was more of Rune in this episode than of the Elven storyline, which is technically the main storyline. But the stuff with the stranger is always good. But and one final thing with Tom, I know I'm skipping here and then everywhere, but
That's fine.
I thought, yeah, Tom Bombadil did feel otherworldly. It just sometimes, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, the dialogue between the two. It felt like, oh, so I am meant to face Gandalf. Sorry, not Gandalf. I am meant to face Sauron and the evil wizard. It felt, as someone mentioned, it felt like a video game, or like, you know, it was like a retelling of an event. The dialogue just felt a bit, you know, just like matter of fact, like statements, things. So, but despite that, I feel like they've got at least the core theme of it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dave?
Yeah. First, before I give my thoughts on Tom Bombadil, but just because Harry mentioned it there about the amount of time that we're spending in Rune, I just thought this was interesting from, I'm sure we all know Digital Tolkien on Twitter or X, and he's broken down the time distribution towards each plot line. So he's got like the amount of time given to the Numenor, Khazad-dûm, Lindon, Rune, Pelalgir, Mordor, all that kind of stuff. So at number 1 is Lindon, which is good. It comes in at 53 minutes and 5 seconds of screen time. This is kind of general-ish at the moment. But at number 2 is the Rune storyline at 47 minutes and 44 seconds in just 4 episodes. And yeah, Harry said like Rune took up a lot of time in this episode. Pelargir has taken up 44 minutes again. So, and then I'll just jump down to the bottom, because the bottom we have Khazad-dûm at 15 minutes and 28 seconds, and Mordor at the very bottom at 13 minutes 28 seconds.
Guys,
so like,
your 2 strongest parts of your series, you gotta put them out front.
Yeah, like, so that was something we discussed a lot last season, that we weren't getting enough of Lindon and Eregion, and like, fair enough, they've upped the Lindon stuff, but Khazad-dûm, I think it's a testament to all fans. Everyone is saying they absolutely love the dwarves and they're loving everything they're doing there. I assume we're going to get a lot more in the latter episodes, and Varking is going to be delighted with all that. But yeah, anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there, because that's probably why we're feeling the way we're feeling about some of the first episodes, good or bad. But yes, my opinion on Tommy B, as we like to call him here on the Melon Heads and the Council of Elrond, Harry mentioned his accent. So at first I was put off by it, and I was like, really, is this the accent? Because we talked about the accent before the movie came out, and did you say it's a Cornish or Cornwall or an old, like one of the, what is it? Cornish, yeah. So that's, I think Rory Kinnear talked about how it's one of like the oldest accents, or like old England. So he wanted it to feel, as he says himself, he's eldest. So he picked this accent, or they came to this decision for this accent. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. I got used to it almost immediately though. But I did, on my second rewatch of this episode, I was like, Tom Bombadil is basically Hagrid. He sounds exactly like him. He looks exactly like him. He does the same thing with the stranger, where he's like, you know, he's teaching him, you know, you're a stranger, Harry. You know, he's doing the same thing, and I could just see him now.
You're
in the
a
next
wizard,
episode.
stranger.
Yeah, like, I should not have said that. I should not have said that. So I thought that was interesting. But in general, I agree with Harry. He did seem otherworldly. A lot of people are talking about him not being jolly enough. I think we can give him another chance in another episode, because we're going to see more of him. But somehow I think he's not going to get much more jolly than he is at the moment. But I still think he is kind of out of this world. His magic is kind of weird and random. The only part I didn't like was towards the end of his conversation with the stranger, where he cared a little bit too much about Sauron and the fate of Middle-earth. And like Harry mentioned, he's kind of like, you must face him and the Dark Wizard. And then he's like, can you not? And he's like, no, I'm for wandering. But I feel like he doesn't, if this was the real Tom Bombadil, he wouldn't be saying like, you must face Sauron and you must face, he'd be like, who? Oh, Sauron. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's not great, is he? Like,
young Sauron, is he still living over there by those mountains, is he? Yeah.
But I did love, I loved his dialogue where he talked about the stars being newcomers and saying they poke their holes in the sky and it's like a bunch of beating eyes down here. And some of the way he described himself, I was actually quite surprised. I think as soon as I heard the accent, I kind of was like, oh no, they're going to butcher Tom Bombadil. And then like after his scenes, I was like, I actually loved that. I really, really thought he did a good job. Maybe wasn't super jolly, but it's impossible to do Tom Bombadil the way everyone perceives him because everyone perceives him in a completely different way. But I think they actually did a pretty good job. So yeah, I'll give a thumbs up for Tom Bombadil.
Good stuff. I'm going to have to say, out of the three of us, I think I was the only one that didn't mind the accent at all. I was just like, I was on board from the get-go. I was just like, okay, that's what they're doing. That's fine. And I think Cornish people are usually pretty jolly. I just kind of think of, is Ian Holloway, is he Cornish? He always seemed quite jolly in his, post-match press conferences. And maybe he wasn't, again, it's just, I didn't know how they were going to do this. I was really worried that it was just going to completely fall flat in his face. It was going to be a disaster because it's, as I said at the start, it's an impossible task to try and, personify Tom Bombadil on screen. And I think that this is as close as what they can do to try and get it as perfect as possible. So I think I definitely just want to commend them on their effort. I think it was a really, really good effort. I enjoyed. I take both of your points, Dave. That's a good point towards the end, that he shouldn't really be kind of guiding the stranger to like, I'm going to train you up and it's going to be like a Rocky montage and you're going to, by the end of the next episode, you're going to be wielding that staff like there's no tomorrow. And I don't want to see him being like the Mr. Miyagi to the wizards. That's going to be, or to the stranger. That's going to be a bit strange. But as a character that they've just brought in, I thought he was great.